Now that you have completed your community field experience, it is time to reflect on how your experience as a learner can be translated into your profile as a teacher. I would also like to remind you that you have an opportunity to debrief face-to-face on the 20th of May. Please check the details on Connect. In the CFE learning cycle, we have emphasized the importance of developing metacognition in order to face the complexity, uncertainty, and plurality of the world outside of the classroom. In the field of education, philosophers have posed this as a challenge for teachers. For example, Hurt Pista talks about the tendency of schooling to make us want to either overdetermine the world or to withdraw from it. He asks, how can we teach in a way that prepares our students for the possibility of being open to being taught by a world that is plural and undefined? Sharon Todd asks, how can we prepare teachers to think on their feet and to make decisions in very complex and diverse classrooms where this teacher will have to navigate uncharted waters without predefined scripts? Sam Rocha poses the question, how can we support our students to wisely experience the world beyond understanding? My own questions are similar to those. Let me tell you an example. At the beginning of March, I was leaving the Scarf building through the main door, where you can often see the hummingbirds, when something called my attention. I found a dead hummingbird near the sidewalk. I was afraid people would step on it, and I remembered that my partner, who is First Nations, wouldn't leave the body of that bird on the floor. I was a little hesitant, but decided to wrap the bird in my scarf and take it to my partner. I sang to it a little, put it in my bag, and took the body with me to a lunch meeting at the other side of the campus. I forgot about it during the meeting, but at the end of the meeting, I decided to show it to a friend. When I opened the scarf, the body was there, but the hummingbird's leg was moving a little. I did not know what to do. I know hummingbirds need to eat very frequently, and I was afraid for his life. I took it to my office and watched him for an hour recover his strength on top of my scarf. As he started to flex his wings, I decided to take him back to the tree. As I started to walk towards Scarf, he wanted to fly but was not strong enough, so it looked like he was hovering over my scarf. I took Agronomy Road, it was around 3:10, and there were waves of students walking in the opposite direction. So there I was, walking counter the mass of students who had finished classes, a short woman carrying a scarf with a hummingbird hovering over it. I had a miracle in my hands, and I was absolutely in awe before it. I wanted to show it to everyone, but to my surprise, nobody looked. People looked absolutely absorbed in their own minds, as if their bodies only existed to take their heads somewhere else. As I was approaching the building, the hummingbird flew away. Later, my partner asked me what the hummingbird came to teach me. In my efforts to look for an answer, I carried out some research. I found the species and learned that they come from Mexico to BC. I also learned that when they feel tired, cold, or threatened, their bodies enter a state called torpor, where they have a system shut down, keeping only 8% of their metabolism. When I found the hummingbird near Scarf, it was in a state of torpor. However, I believe my teacher hummingbird came to show me the torpor of the students who could not see the hummingbird. It showed me how our system of schooling makes us shut down our senses to the world and focus our energies on what goes on in our heads. We want the world, which is complex and plural, to fit the predefined scripts we have in our minds. No wonder there's so much anxiety, depression, and conflict if we feel disconnected and can't see the miracle around us. The hummingbird prompted me to think about education as a process of awakening the senses to the joys, the pains, and the miracle of sharing a living world with other beings. It is not an easy task to change the education that leads us to torpor. In the past, I have tried to think about different steps in this direction, but I'm still puzzled. There's still much work to be done. The conceptual model of the learning cycle has been one of these attempts. How can we prepare students for being decentered and disarmed before the world? wearing just a hat for protection, when most of what we do in education is about finding predetermined answers that tend to lock us in trying to overdetermine the world. One way to think about the implications of this thinking for teaching is to combine different ideas about knowledge with different ideas about the role of education. In this matrix, you will find two understandings of education: think as I do and do as I say, and think for yourself and choose responsibly what to do. This is combined with two distinct ways of thinking about knowledge. There's one right answer independent of context, and answers are socially constructed and context dependent. Looking at this matrix, there are at least 5 different pedagogical possibilities for thinking and action. The first possibility, A, is think as I do as I say. There's only one right answer. This kind of teaching tends to reinforce the disposition of the fenced house in the RV. The second possibility, B, is answers are context dependent, but in my class, you should think as I do and do as I say. The third possibility, C, is think for yourself and choose responsibly what to do, but there's only one right answer. Both B and C tend to reinforce the disposition of the tent. The fourth possibility, D, is answers are context dependent. You should learn to think for yourself and choose responsibly what to do. This option can be interpreted in 2 ways in education. One interpretation, D1, says that any answers the students arrive at are good answers. Therefore, we should just listen and validate students' perspectives. Although this makes students feel good and validated, it does not really prepare them to the challenges they will face in encountering complex and conflictual situations outside of school, as it still reinforces the tent disposition. The second interpretation, D2, is that there are better and worse answers, but the decision for what is better or worse is always made in context. Therefore, as teachers, we need to prepare our students to engage in complex and uncertain contexts and with diversity, to identify and challenge their own predefined ideas, and to welcome both the joys, the difficulties, and the discomfort of being open and being taught by the world. It is important to notice that traditional systems of schooling have done mostly A, and if our education is based on A, we will find it hard to imagine what D would look like. Having said that, I'm not arguing that D is what we should do all the time in education. What I am arguing is that if we don't have D, we are trapped in A, B, or C. For example, if we have D as part of our repertoire, but we need to teach CPR in 5 minutes to a group of students, we may choose A. We will have to forget that there are different ways of doing CPR, and we also have to forget that the students will have to think independently when faced with a real situation. But we do not forget that we have forgotten those things, and we would address them at another opportunity. I hope your community field experience has provided you with many opportunities to practice D as a learner, and that this will influence your confidence to try D as a teacher. On behalf of the CFE team, I would like to wish you the very best in your future career in education.